Well, today we're going to talk about, and let me minimize this thing so I can see my own screen. We're going to talk about edible native Virginia gardening. And my name is Mary Carolyn, and I am a Master Gardener intern and also have a background in statistics and nutrition. So I love gardening and I love nutrition, and this is how I'm tying it all together. And here's a beautiful display from last year's crop of raspberries and blackberries from our yard. So the topics for tonight are basically focusing on edible fruit trees and shrubs that are native to Virginia, the health benefits of growing your own foods, how soil affects plant nutrition, and at the end, if there's time, I have some plant sources of protein. And as always, this isn't meant to be anything dietary or telling anyone what to eat. And also you have to be careful to identify things because there are always copycats. So I thought it'd be fun to just share what I had growing in my own garden. And these are violets, which come out in the early spring and can be added to salads. The strawberries, really good crop, easily shared with the bunnies. Although we have to ask them to put up a sign and say, please don't take one bite out of each strawberry. They like to do that. These are my dandelions, which are best in early spring. And then we have blueberries, and there's another strawberry. So I have a list here of edible native trees and shrubs, and this is from the Virginia Tech horticulture department, and I have adapted it to this screen. But this is a very short list, and for Virginia and the Piedmont region. So it should do well. These types of plants should do well. And I left off the column about soil because they pretty much all need well-drained, rich, moist soil, except the strawberries seem to do well with a little bit of sandy soil. That's what we found. So just going through these a little bit, we have the hazelnut, which is kind of a leafy fringed covering. And if you're willing to crack nuts and not just buy them at Giant, then it's great to have in your yard, and they're pretty sturdy. The plum tree is a wonderful small tree, and the plums produced can be pretty small, just like anything organic grown out of your yard, and they're very, very tart, but they're absolutely delicious and can be used in many recipes. So plums are great. They can, like any tree, get a disease that then hits every tree of that species. So we had plums for years and years, and then all of a sudden they got some plague, and that was the end of the plums, but we did have them for many years. And then there's also the black walnut, which is a wonderful tree. It's also large and a great shade tree, and it produces plenty of walnuts for the family, and also if you want to attract some nice critters into the yard and share with them. The high bush blueberry, which we have, produces very well, and you do have to pair them up. I'm not sure if it's male, female or not. I've heard a couple different things, and maybe somebody else can answer that, but they do need to be pruned way back, I learned, and you have to pretty much prune them right after they bloom, like anything else. give it a good pruning, and then they come back nicely. We don't use any fertilizer on our yard. We just, or any of the plants, but we do compost our fruits and vegetables. There's also the blackberry and black raspberry, and those grow wild if you have space in your yard, just like raspberries. Another one is the elderberry, which produces clumps of fruit, and they're used to make syrup. I took an herbal certificate, and we made elderberry syrup, and it was absolutely wonderful. But this is a plant that really does have a copycat, like many things. But I would say the copycat that looks just like an elderberry is also very poisonous. So it's important to identify everything. And if you're going to order a plant, or have one planted, to really look up and verify that you're getting the exact species that is edible. So this is just another list of, going down that list, the strawberry and persimmon, pawpaw. Has anyone has a pawpaw tree?
I actually have 3 small ones. They haven't fruited yet, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I've heard in the Master Gardener's training, I remember hearing a lot about how everyone loved the pawpaw fruit. We also have a fig tree, and it produced well one year, and then it seems to grow prolifically, but then not produce anything this year. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But another great one is the mulberry. And those, if you've seen them, are like really large blackberries. So they're absolutely delicious. The serviceberry, which I intend to plant, and I haven't yet, but that's a very common Virginia plant. And then the hickory tree. So, there are some benefits of eating vegetables and fruits from your own garden. And the main thing is that you know what you're putting onto those plants. If you choose to fertilize them, that's your choice, or put whatever you want to put on them, but at least you know what it is. And on to this slide of the health benefits. I want to be able to see the group a little bit better. How can I get that screen back, Tori?
Let me try something real quick.
Oh, here we go.
Got it? Can you see it, or did I just change it on my own self?
Maybe you just changed it on your own. I just cannot, now that I'm sharing, see the
yeah, the best thing you're gonna have to do in the top right, there's like a couple, like a grid on the top right, at least on my screen, it says gallery view. If you click on it, it'll go to speaker view.
Oh, I got it back. Okay, somehow it was on the very right. Okay. There we go. All right. So again, you get to decide if you want chemicals to kill weeds or whatever you want. But if there are no chemicals needed, and we've had successful gardens without any chemicals, then you're not eating them. You're also able to pick things at peak nutrition. There's no transport, no picking things before it's ripe, and then having ripening agents on them. Fruits and vegetables also have antioxidants, chlorophyll, and phytochemicals, which are excellent. And then they're readily available. Last night we only had 9 good cherry tomatoes, and that's all we needed. Brought them in for the salad, and it was perfect. So Fruits and vegetables from your own garden are also very hydrating, and they can also be used as a facial mask. So they're just wonderful. They increase your immunity. So as we know, a plant-based diet can be easier to digest, and having fruits and vegetables from your own garden can help you eliminate environmental toxins and help boost your immunity. And also another benefit of having your own edible garden is that when you're out gardening, you get your vitamin D from the sun. If you can be out there for 15 minutes pulling weeds. And plants require less energy to digest, so then we have more energy for the rest of our activities. Here is another look at our crop of raspberries and blueberries. And again, they differ from year to year. So, and that has to do with how the quality of the soil and how you amend it. And I know that this year we need to step back. We had 3 great years of produce, and we need to, I know we're not really supposed to till the soil, but we need to get our good compost that we've been working on back into that soil. So the soil quality and the water quality, light exposure, and acidity in the soil are affecting our nutrition and how the soil is depleted. So that's one reason you might have a low producing year. Maybe there's too much rain or it's too hot. And we had, I guess, record rain and heat this year. So all of these things can affect the nutrition in your edible garden. And it's best to stick to Virginia natives because then they're going to have the best chance of growth and also the best chance to stand up to any pests. So the stronger chemicals that we use now, now we need even stronger chemicals because the pests somehow adapt to those. And if you use natives, you're probably going to have a better chance of having a garden that's prolific. We have had some troubles with our apples this year, and they started to produce and then disappeared. I guess the deer took them. They were pretty high up, so I guess they got up there. Let's see. So just like we need macronutrients and micronutrients, plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are their macronutrients. And another way that your soil can be of high quality is not tilling the soil, but giving it good compost and then letting the worms and other critters in there do their job, breaking things down, and let them have their way with the soil. So, if you keep it well hydrated and also try to water in the early morning if possible. And also the placement of your edible garden where things that can tolerate shade like blackberries and raspberries will do better in a little bit of shade, but your tomatoes, of course, need full sun. So, and this is just a soil quality definition by USDA that we want the soil to hold water and nutrients like a sponge so it's ready for uptake when the plant needs it, but it's not sitting there going, rotting away. And also to remember that if you place fertilizers into your garden, the roots are taking them up, so you're ending up getting that chemical in your system, but they're also going into our water system. So just be careful of that. And then I just thought I would add some fun charts on proteins that are in fruits and vegetables. So, you know, this is just showing, and it's not much, but if we really look at how much protein you need in a day and calculate that for yourself, or look into that for yourself, and you had your 9 servings of fruits and vegetables, you would be able to get quite a bit from vegetables. And of course, beans and nuts also have a ton of protein. But corn, we grew corn this year. Haven't been able to grow mushrooms yet. Want to work on that. We grew successfully arugula. It did very well, and also peppers. And this is just a chart of proteins in beans, which again are beans and nuts, heavy in protein. And, you know, this is also another time where you can consider planting pumpkins. And back to that chart, pumpkin seeds also are great for protein. And if you have a space in your yard, pumpkins are wonderful and fun to grow, just like watermelon. So that's about it. That's my mint. That's my dill. These are the raspberries. And of course, I love the dandelions. And that's all I have. If you have any questions or we want to discuss some ideas other people have on growing their native gardens, all ears.
This is Debbie. A great job. A very interesting lecture.
Thank you.
I'm just curious. Wild cherries, are they edible at all? Cherry trees?
You know, you mean from cherry trees that?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. It's funny. We used to eat them all the time when we were little. But now I'm like, well, wait, kids, you know, let me eat it first. And so we have a beautiful cherry tree, and it's full of cherries, and all the birds are eating them. And I have to eat some. Yes, I believe they are, but I'm such an identification fanatic now. Whereas, you know, my mom never watched. We just ate away, never got poisoned. But yes, I think they're edible.
Yeah, because we have a wild cherry tree in our yard. And I just wonder, you know, if haven't tried it, I'm kind of like you, very, very nervous about it.
I am. Here's what I do. Even with dandelions, which are well documented, because there are so many copycats, and you know, we have a cherry tree, but I'm not really sure if that's the right one. So, you know, the other thing I eat are plantain, and we have these wonderful purslane growing in the driveway. They love the driveway because they're succulents. And what's the other one I showed earlier? Violets. So I always taste them in just micro portions, and then I increase it. That's what I do. I'm not recommending people experiment that way.
Now, violets. What part of the violet can you eat? We have tons of violets. I didn't know you could eat violets.
Well, the flowers. But they also have a twin. And so I bring them in, line them up. I do plant snap. I make sure I've identified it carefully and make sure I'm not getting the twin violet that's poisonous that grows in our yard. But the native violet in the spring, when it produces a beautiful flower, is edible.
Is it the leaves just the flower, right?
Just the flower.
Okay. Thanks.
So the violets that come up in the lawn, are those the poisonous ones or the native?
They're both. I mean, they both come up in the lawn. So that's why I said I bring them in, and I literally lay them out on the plate and make sure I'm looking just, it's like snakes. When you look at a snake and it has a too fancy of a design, you don't want to be around it. So when I compared, we had mixed right in the lawn, the edible and the non-edible, and the edible ones looked smooth and easy, and the non-edible, the toxic ones, looked scary. And that's part of what plants do, is they if you're eating something and it's appealing to the eye and it tastes sweet, that's how I think the edible plants evolve. Like, look at a raspberry, you want to pick that and eat it. A mulberry looks absolutely delicious. But if it doesn't look right, and certainly when things taste bitter, with the exception of dandelions. Even with dandelions, I make sure that I know that's the dandelion with a yellow flower growing out of it.
Is there a difference in the violet flower of the edible versus the non-edible one? Is the flower different, or they look the same?
Well, they look similar, but the edible one is smoother and even in color.
Okay.
Nice purple, violet.
Got like purple white ones, white purple,
Yep, the purple and the white, and is there a third color? But the purple and the white, and they have like little white and blue. But then there's one has some yellow in it and stripes and.
Yeah, I've seen the yellow. The yellow. That would not be
toxic.
Good. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Yeah. I always leave, this is like, I'd leave, say, kids, I've just eaten, here's what I just ate, and leave it on the counter. Say, if I grow ill, here's what I've just eaten. But, when you get a rhythm in your yard and you get things growing, things aren't going to be perfect year after year. And I feel like you just have to go with that flow and then take the things that do well. We had wonderful arugula this year and wonderful strawberries, but the apples failed. So, but we always have wonderful blueberries. So things kind of come and go. What else? Who else has had some successful native edibles? Does anyone have a mulberry?
I wish. These all look so good. But I was wondering, is this a concerted effort that you made, or did you sort of evolve into this and, a dandelion became another native plant that was edible?
This is a big work for me because, for me personally, I am working on this for my yard, working toward an all native, all Virginia native, and then nearly all edible yard.
It's wonderful, and I think in this day and age, to really go toward that. Yeah.
Yeah, when COVID happened, honestly, I was like, oh gosh, I'm so glad we have those dandelions. Yeah, I was afraid to go to the store like everybody else.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I thought of, was just having a sustainable yard.
Do you remember that lecture last season from the woman who, the author of the edible gardening? Were you there for that one at the lecture for FA?
In the training?
Yes.
Oh yes, it was wonderful.
Wasn't it?
Yes.
I was absolutely floored by the variety of, vegetable gardening and the beautiful landscaping material.
Yes, and plantains. Things that get stomped on and ignored and put you know, pesticides on these beautiful, beautiful, delicious plants. And, you know, I've got my dandelion tea right here. It's so nutritious. I did a whole unit of study on it in my herbal certificate. It's very nutritious. But again, you have to, we don't put a drop of anything on the yard. And even if something's growing near the house, I don't use it. I will also go out and get good dandelions and then plant them in the garden so they're not getting mowed over or stepped on or anything.
Is it very complicated to make the tea? I'm just curious.
No, you dig down and get the whole root, and then you chop it, and then you roast it, and be careful not to burn it. It burns really quickly. And then you can just grind it up and then make tea with it.
Fantastic.
Very nutritious.
Does it have a yellow tinge to it as well? Does it?
No, it's just really a dark tea.
Dark.
It's dark and bitter. It's almost like a kind of a coffee.
Interesting.
And if you want to try it out, the traditional medicinals tea brand makes dandelion root tea. That's a great way to try it. Another great way to try some of these are if you have a Whole Foods nearby, they sell dandelions. And it's kind of a way to feel like, okay, it's safe. I also buy edible flowers at the grocery store, pansies. Somehow, of course, if it's in a package and I can then compare it to my own. And what's the other one? Why can't I think of the name of the flower that's also
Nasturtium?
no, this is so common. Well, I'll think of it as soon as the program ends.
Of course, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Rose?
A rose is another one.
Yeah.
You know, we just don't eat enough of our yards. Snapdragons.
I didn't know snapdragons.
I didn't either. I wouldn't have guessed them, but they are too.
Did someone just write in Calendula? Was that a possibility?
Calendula is a wonderful product for tea. In my herbal class, we made an oil out of it. You can dry, just like drying mint leaves. You can dry calendula, make a tea, blend it with oil.
What are some of the problems with native plants in terms of insects and critters, things like that?
Well, whatever is going around then comes to your yard. An example is this year we've got this webbing, and I'm constantly going around watering things on jet, you know, getting the webs down, pulling the webs down. And so if other people spray, then that's creating a situation where, you know, it's like penicillin no longer as useful as it used to be, because it kept getting stronger and stronger antibiotics, and now it's not as useful. So I think our pests are getting more resistant as more chemicals are used. So what I do is I really just cut stuff out. I mean, if it gets a disease, I cut it out and I focus on the plants that are doing well. And it seems to come in waves. There's all, like the white oaks this year, had a problem last year, and they still have a problem. Anybody else have a problem with white oaks?
What's the problem?
just that they die so suddenly. It's been a problem in Virginia, and it's a beautiful tree. But we also had some kind of a mold on the strawberries that came along, and we treated it with vinegar, and I found food grade peppermint oil,